Released in 2011, this film, directed by Bennett Miller, with a screenplay written by Steven Zaillian and Aaron Sorkin, stars Brad Pitt, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Jonah Hill. It garnered 6 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Actor for Brad Pitt, and got Jonah Hill his first Oscar nom for Best Supporting Actor. Today, on You've Never Seen It, we're talking about Moneyball. Welcome to You've Never Seen It, an audio podcast where I am on a mission to never hear these 4 words again. I am your host, Allison Salamone, and joining me today is a major sports fan, a major sports film fanatic, and the cousin to You've Never Seen It regular guest, Moose Haas. Today, I am joined by cousin Ryan. What's going on?
What's going on? I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm hoping I can live up to Moose's. I know Moose brings a lot of energy, so I'm here to match that.
I'm going to send him a message after this, regardless of how this goes, and just tell him that I like you better.
Yes.
Like, that's just...
That'd be amazing. Yes.
I'm going to tell him that he's fired and never allowed to be on another episode again. And we're just going to move forward that way.
About it. Yep.
The only way to do things around here. Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for coming and hanging out with me. I'm really excited to talk about this movie. I have heard for obviously the last 10 years, people using the term, oh, he moneyballed the system. They moneyballed this. So like, it's finally nice I had an understanding of what this film was about a little bit, but I'm not as into, I like sports. I'm more of like, I like my college football, right, things like that. But like baseball has never been something that I've been super into. So it was really interesting to kind of like finally figure out what they mean when people say moneyball the system.
That term came out and it was kind of funny to see people not really understand what it meant, but
to just use it.
Yeah, it was funny.
But before even kind of getting into it, I kind of want to let our listeners, like 20 of them, it's fine. Give us a little bit of info about yourself. Like, what is it about you and movies and what you love about them?
So I grew up in like Podunk, Washington, country town. So there wasn't a whole lot for us to do besides be out in the orchards and do dumb kid stuff. And movies was a thing that I just kind of fell into. My mom and my dad really were introducing me to movies. Moose is my cousin. And so a lot of movies with us growing up as kids, Ghostbusters was a thing we watched constantly together. Mm-hmm. But, I got into a lot of things. My mom loved movies like Now and Then and Grease, and I grew up with that. My dad, Matrix, he took me out of school to go see it when it came out. Movies was a huge thing for us.
Yeah.
So I just love it. And when it comes to baseball was something that I grew up doing. My dad was a ball player. I'm a ball player. My sister played in high school. It was just something that we loved. And this movie, it's funny because I remember this season. It was 2002 when this all took place. And, I was just a kid, 12, whatever.
Jesus Christ.
But I remember this.
God damn it.
But I remember this season. So
you're the second person I've had on this show to let me know how much younger they are than me.
I just aged myself. So there you go. But this came out in 2011, 5 years after I graduated high school. So that kind of says a whole lot about the whole thing. But it was such a great movie and I love it. And I actually have watched it since we've talked about, doing this and going over this. I've watched that movie probably 5 times in the last week. I just love the movie. So
it's so good. It's so interesting too, because it's one of those movies where it has the potential to be kind of boring, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's not a whole, it's not like it's a full super dramatized plot. There's things about that are dramatized, but it's not like you want him to succeed, but you're kind of bought into it, but it feels like there are stakes, but there aren't stakes. Like it's not an edge of your seat, waiting for what's going to happen next kind of movie. It's it's pure dialogue, but that's what you're going to get with an Aaron Sorkin written script anyway.
Hands down.
Right? Like it's a lot of talking, and I don't mind that, but I think what sells it is how interesting is what Jonah Hill is doing. is what I think is what sells it more than anything else.
Yes, agreed, 100%. He was incredible in that movie. I think back to when I first saw him in 2006 when he did Grandma's Boy and Click and, all this stuff. And then he goes and does something like this and just knocked it out of the park. He can't be typecast. He did amazing. And it was that dialogue between him and Brad Pitt. It carried the movie. That's what made you invested in the movie and keep watching it.
Mm-hmm. And like, of course, and it was really nice to kind of watch Philip Seymour Hoffman in something. But then even thinking about it now, that this was like one of his last roles before he died too soon. But even he's Philip Seymour Hoffman. He's great in everything he does.
Yes.
I mean, just always so great. But so I guess that kind of goes over why did you want to talk about this movie specifically?
So this movie, I love this movie. I love Jonah Hill. I love Brad Pitt. Scott Hatterberg. I mean, you got Brad Pitt Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
That for me, I was excited. It was amazing. But this movie for me hit so many things, nostalgia and everything too, because I remember that season, 2002, Angels won the World Series. That's my team. I remember thinking, oh, we're going to lose. Oakland's going to come sweep this through and take this. So this movie kind of brought back a lot of those memories, and the cast itself really sold a movie it's baseball, but doesn't show a whole lot of baseball.
Yeah.
But it felt like you were there. You were a part of it.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too. Like, what in your mind, because you talk to certain people, like I would just classify it as a sports film because it's a film about a sport, but there's others who wouldn't quite say, because there's not as much baseball in it as like you would, like a For Love of the Game or Field of Dreams or things like that. So what categorizes a sports movie to you, and does it fit that mold?
I guess for me, for a sports movie like that, I mean, that's what the basis of the movie was the sport. So it was all about baseball, but it's all about the side of baseball that people don't think about. You think baseball, you're on the diamond, you're pitcher, catcher, whatever. But what goes behind the scenes with the back office, it's an integral part of baseball and what actually moves and shakes. So I think is more of a sports movie because it does handle that nitty gritty of what baseball is, and it covered a lot of those things. So it did show some things cool, but it shows something that's never done, that Field of Dreams never did, that Sandlot never did, that backside of it. So it was kind of nice.
Yeah. It's nice to get like a behind the scenes kind of thing. Cause like, to be honest, like I don't understand how a baseball team works. Like you have your general manager but you have the actual manager who's on the field. Like I don't understand any of it. So
and then you have some teams that have the manager who is the general manager, and it's just
none of it makes sense to me, and it's fine. It's so weird. But then it made even more sense because I remember being a freshman in college watching the Red Sox finally win a World Series and going, holy shit. Like, where did that even come from? And then at the end of this movie, when they're doing like the little title cards or whatever, they said that 2 years from here, in the next season or whatever, the Red Sox would go to win the World Series using the exact same method that the Oakland A's did.
Right. The huge difference, though, there's a big difference, though, still between those two, is the Red Sox had the money. Like, it was still close to $100 million what they were spending compared to, the $40-50 million that the Oakland A's had. So, yeah, they moneyballed it, but they had the money to moneyball it.
Right? They had the ability to actually really do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's so weird. The idea of, like, how money in baseball, like, I feel like baseball is I mean, obviously it's different, but, like, it's the way that it's run and the way that it's done is, like, its own entity entirely. Like, completely, it's, like I said, like, you have the Yankees who have millions upon millions of dollars to build a team however they want to build it, versus Oakland, who had not anywhere at the third of what that was to try to be successful. And it's almost like you start having, like, even though we have the minor leagues and the farm leagues, it's also like we have MLB teams that become farm leagues for these other teams.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's completely unfair. I mean, they even talk about it in the movie how unfair the game is. Yeah. Every year someone's breaking a record on getting paid so much money to go play. So baseball has a lot of money to throw around.
It's so wild. And I don't understand. I mean, I love a good baseball movie. I love The Sandlot, love Field of Dreams, love Angels in the Outfield as much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I love that movie.
So do I. Everyone gives me so much shit. I'm like,
Same.
it is such a good movie. Angels in the Outfield. I love. I mean, my husband's from Southside Chicago, so he was a White Sox fan, so of course we love what is it, Little Big League on top of Rookie of the Year, because both of those films are just,
they're great.
They're so good. But there's definitely something about this one that it almost makes me kind of be a little like how I am with the NBA ever since I listened to this podcast on like the shady stuff that the NBA was doing and the refs were doing with their cheating and shaving point scandals. I'm kind of sitting there watching this movie, even though now it's like so many years later, but still in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, that sucks. Like you're literally setting up people for heartbreak for their whole entire.
Yep. Yeah. Hands down. It's bad. It's bad. It's a lot of, especially like the talent scouts, like what they talk about, they promise a lot of things to these kids and then it doesn't always pan out for them because you never know.
Right.
And I think that was a really good part the movie brought out was showing that, it can take the bad news bears of baseball players to make a team and win 21 games in a row. So.
Oh my God, which is so wild. Like those are my favorite moments in sports films. Like when you're waiting for so we know they're not going to get, we know that they're not going to the World Series. Like we know that didn't happen. Right. But like the big moment is breaking the record of winning 20 straight games in a row, which because of how many games there are in a season, also again, don't understand it. Because like last week, my husband, like a month ago, my husband's like, oh yeah, the White Sox, or however many months ago, White Sox are in first in their division. And then all of a sudden, like they've dropped low. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't understand. Are the Braves playing? Are they in the World Series? Okay, cool. That works for me because I'm from Atlanta. Right. Like I don't
whatever.
Zero investment, and I need to feel like I need to be better about it.
Baseball's a long haul, so I get that. It's it's a lot of games compared to the NFL, MLB, or NFL, NHL, NBA. It's so much longer than the rest of those, so it's a lot to invest.
Right.
For sure.
So you're a big Angels fan? Is that's your
team? Angels fan.
What about it is is it for just families out there? Or?
I was born in Southern California. Moose's family, my family, are all Angel fans. Grew up not too far from Anaheim Stadium. That's what we were. It's what we loved. And even when we moved to Washington, I picked the Angels over the Mariners. So,
that's like Ken Griffey Jr. heyday too.
Yeah, it really was. It was a little hard, to be honest. But everyone crapped on my team until we won 2002. But that was about it.
They always do. They always just keep it. Look, people crapped on the Red Sox since 1918.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I'm a Raider fan, so I get a lot of crap constantly. So it's.
And now they're in Vegas, so at least like you can go and see them while you're getting
watch them lose. Yeah, that's cool. That's always fun.
In person, it's so great. It's the best part about it.
All that money to watch them like that. Yeah, it's so great.
It's so great. Love spending money to do that. So with this one, do you find when people are coming to like ask you for movie advice or sports films or films about baseball, like how often are you finding yourself like recommending this to someone?
A lot more often than not. Even this movie had a big presence. A lot of people really watched it or understood it and seen it once. So I have to make them go back and watch it again. But it happens quite a bit. I think this and The Sandlot are the two movies that I do recommend most often.
The Sandlot's so great.
It's amazing. I think anyone who ever played baseball or is involved with baseball should watch that movie. And
that was so cool, by the way, just how swift. I'm just gonna throw because we're audio only, but the way that you just scooped the cat up and you're just like, right? We're going back here as I'm going to continue my sentence. Meanwhile, my ADD would be like, and where was I? Where do we go from here?
She's being camera jealous right now. She wants on.
She wants to talk about some Moneyball. She's a big fan.
I think she does. She has a lot to say.
A lot to say. We had mentioned too the performances from Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill. This actually not only is this like one of Jonah Hill's like first like forays into drama. I think before this he did Funny People, but even then his character, from what I remember about, I saw it once. Not my favorite Judd Apatow, but it's obviously a little bit more serious, but you don't get, he's still playing a comedian. So it's like, it's not as drama heavy as this role is, which then turns out to garner him his first ever Oscar nomination.
Right.
for supporting actor, which I'm pretty sure, and of course I should have looked it up and wrote it down. That 2012 Oscar year was pretty stacked.
Yeah, if I remember right, it was too.
I know Moneyball was up for. So yeah, Moneyball lost to The Artist. Or no, Brad Pitt lost to The Artist. Did The Artist win that year? I still think The Artist won that year. But God, that really was. Yeah, The Artist won. There was a lot of movies that year. That was like one of the first years they did like a shit ton of movies for for the winners.
Yeah.
And I still haven't seen The Artist. We'll chalk that up. That's why I have a podcast.
Right.
But who is now? I got to go and see who Jonah Hill was up against and who he lost to. Oh, well, he did lose to Christopher Plummer. So not that I saw that movie. But, oh shit! There's another great sports movie, Warrior. I didn't know Nick Nolte got a Best Supporting Actor nom for that one. Damn, just for playing himself, being a drunk, and being sorry about it. And he got the roles closest to our chest. It's like that's really why I think Brad Pitt won for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because he was just playing so good. He was just playing such a cool guy, just like a cool dude, and I feel like that's exactly what he would be like in person. So I'm like, no wonder he won for that role. Like that's him being Brad Pitt.
Well, and Brad Pitt being Brad Pitt, it showed a lot in this movie too, was him always eating something.
Yes.
Always had something going on, the peanuts from the bowl, what have you, like the popcorn. Very Brad Pitt.
Very Brad Pitt. It was very reminiscent of Ocean's 11, where he was constantly eating something, which also was kind of getting on my nerves, the way that he just had like a cup of like sunflower seeds. But again, baseball, right? Like they can't chew tobacco. It's like there's always something in, which again, I don't understand. I don't know where that culture comes from.
And that was the thing for me growing up. I think even after I stopped playing, being around it still, I had sunflower seeds on me all the time. All the time. Like, we should be randomly in my pocket and I'd be eating sunflower seeds. And, it was just one of those things. We'd buy those big buckets of sunflower seeds and just have that. And my mom and my dad and I would just eat the crap out of them. And so I get it. I totally get it.
I just don't understand. And it also he's like throws me back to Rookie of the Year with Daniel Stern's character and how he's just like throwing them and like and just spitting them out. It's just, oh my God. I just don't get it. There's so many things about baseball I just don't understand. And I'm like literally alienating probably 2 or 3 people on this podcast talking about it.
There are some things that unless you play or you're around it, you just don't get it. It's part of that culture that's, drilled into you as a kid. So from the outside, I think that would be kind of weird. Sunflower seeds all the time. Cool. Why would you do that to yourself? Cold sores in your mouth and crap like that. It's raw.
It's just raw.
Salt.
It's like constantly eating. It's like when you eat a bowl of like Captain Crunch that you haven't eaten.
Right.
And you haven't eaten it in months. And all of a sudden, like the roof, you're like, what just happened to the roof of my mouth?
You got to toughen up, apparently.
You got to build those calluses in your cheek, right? It's exactly.
So much to baseball. So much to it.
So you're out in Vegas now.
Yes.
What kind of action does baseball get out there?
So we have a minor league team.
Okay.
The Aviators that are here, and there's actually grumblings that we're going to get a major league team here within the next few years. And oddly enough, it might be Oakland A's, which would be hilarious considering this podcast. Yeah. They might be coming here, and so that's the talk of the town is Vegas is going to get a baseball team. So if we do, I'll be all over it.
And
we have a minor league team, and I'm only 4 hours away from California, so
it's not bad.
Yeah,
your 4 hours to California is like my 4 hours to Savannah, Georgia, where I just go and I drink for a weekend and then come home. It's great.
I go to Moose and I drink for the week.
There you go, perfect. Yeah. It win-win. Now, the other type of action you can do in Vegas, if you're putting money on things, like what would you like? How does that work? How does like gambling on baseball work?
So sports betting is crazy here. You can bet on just about anything. The first 5 innings, the whole game, the pitchers, the count, the score. There's so many prop bets depending where you go. I like to stick just to the game. If I'm going to bet, I'm going to bet on the game because I can kind of understand the pitching and who they're playing and stuff like that. So, but I know guys who do that insane prop bet, first doubles, who hits the first home run, what team, how many home runs. Like it's mind blowing what people can bet on here.
That's wild.
It's scary, really.
I would never. I mean, I already don't have money now, but like, I would never have any money if I lived in Vegas. Like this, I actually had a cousin for. I don't know if he says he doesn't do it anymore, but I have a cousin who lives in Texas who, for the longest time, was a sports book keeper, and I would ask him, I'm like, so what happens if like people don't pay you? Because like I also watch a lot of mob movies, so I just assume he's connected. And like his whole answer, he goes, hey, just didn't take their bets anymore. I was like, okay.
That's what he tells you, but there's probably more behind it. You know, you never know.
Exactly. But he's like, and I like tried to get him to like explain it to me, but he also like didn't want to correct me that much. But it was the wildest thing. I think like any like sports, or like, I mean, I watched all the Sopranos when they were doing their sports books, and watched, you know, the season with the one guy who had to like give his whole sports store to Tony. Like that would be me if I lived in Vegas trying to bet on literally anything.
Well, and it's gotten worse. I mean, depending on how you look at it. Now that they have the apps for some of these casinos where you can just bet at home while you're watching the game, live betting from your phone.
What?
And it's wild because they even have the prop bets on it. So it's super wild.
It's so crazy. And like betting is such an interesting, like sports books in general, just even like gambling in general is so interesting because especially when I equate it to like what I do for a living. So like when I'm not burying myself in movies that I've never seen to wax poetic about with people for 45 minutes to an hour, I'm a behavior analyst. So my whole thing is I work with children. I used to work with adults, but I'm back to working with kids with autism and other developmental disabilities. But what's always interesting to think about is like how we get reinforced by things and like what keeps our behaviors going. Mm-hmm. And I always, whenever like I'm teaching people about like schedules of reinforcement, I always use Vegas as the example of why gambling is so addicting, because the payout, right? That's your reinforcement. That's what's right. But you never know when it's going to happen unless you're Rain Man counting cards and they catch you. But even then the payouts are so big, but like, you never know when that slot machine's going to hit. So that's why you would get the little old ladies just putting their money. You know, I would sit there with like $1 in the penny slots and just go. But when it hits and it hits big, you're like, well, shit, I got to keep going. I could win big again. And then you could never win anything again, but you're going to keep trying because it happened at some point. And that's why shit like that is so addictive and why people just can't stop. It blows my mind. It's crazy. Human behavior is wild. And
yes.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, just being here, living here, because I don't gamble as much anymore as I used to. It's kind of one of those things that lost its luster. But I go down to the strip and hang out and watching the tourists, listening to the machines light up and make all that noise and people's reactions to it. It's interesting to watch. Like you said, the human dynamic is crazy.
Yeah, and people getting so angry, and I'm like, brah, you came to Vegas. So I haven't been to Vegas since like since I've been old enough to gamble, which again, probably a good thing. But like my husband, who's gone a few times, he's like, yeah, you know, he's like, I go up he's like, there's one time I went and I was up like $1,000 and then I lost it all. I was like, why? He goes, well, it's not my money. It's Vegas's money. I was like, bitch, it is your money.
Yeah, at that point, you're like, bring it home.
I'm like, he was like, we weren't dating. It was fine. I was like, but still.
Come on.
That mentality is like, here. He's like, I was like, that mentality is like, you know, that's where it belongs. Let it recirculate. I'm like, you are whatever makes you sleep at night, but you're lucky we weren't together at that time because I would have murdered you.
That's so funny. That's hilariously funny.
Yeah. You know,
the sports betting part of it too, like for me, a lot of people, you know, one or two bets at a time on one ticket. That's kind of the big thing. But people go crazy here and they do, 5, 6, 7 teams. And it takes one team to lose for you not to get your bet. And that's a lot of money that can go down the drain. Let's stick to the one or two so you know your odds are a little in your favor. Yeah. So,
I always liked going down to the old horse track here in Orlando at the time of the Kentucky Derby and putting my bets on the win place show, like just choosing someone to either win place or show, because either way, I got 3 chances of that horse making me money. So,
well, and they're coming up with new ways to gamble here. I mean, not only is baseball possibly coming this way, but we're doing the Grand Prix for the first time in next year, and they already talking about the amount of gambling that's going to happen for that. It's just Give me baseball. I'll bet on baseball when it's here so I can go watch it. But
right?
Everything else, whatever.
And speaking of baseball, kind of getting back into it, if you had to like talk about some of your top moments, like when people are asking you what Moneyball's about, what do you love about it? What moments from it would be like the first that come to mind to talk about?
I think one of my favorite things was that the first scene with Chris Pratt as Scott Hatterberg, that conversation with him to show that for baseball, that bad news bears type of deal. Someone couldn't be a catcher anymore, can go play a different position, and look how well he did. The opportunity was given to him and he did it. That quote in there about everyone can play the children's game, but everyone at a different time gets told they can't play it anymore. And that hits huge because you look at baseball players, some last a year, some go like Albert Pujols in their 40s. Like it all depends.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of people, that's the kind of the two things that I really point them to, because people get so incensed by the game of baseball, like their position, they're going to play, they're going to make the major leagues, and they don't account what happened to. I mean, look at what Billy Beane, that true story behind him. So I think those are the moments that I really pick out because it's so romanticized sometimes that people forget about the real things behind it. So I think this movie did a perfect job of that.
Well, it's like kind of like in any sports. Like at least you talk about Billy Beane and what happened to him once. He was this big hitter in high school and he was crushing it, and then he gets to the major leagues and he can't hit for shit. It's almost like you talk about like the Tim Tebow who won a national championship with Florida Gators and was gone within the first round of the draft, and like people were just pulling him, and like he gets to where he go and nothing. Like he can't perform. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting to kind of see, and to see how, I think one of the reasons why I liked this movie and I enjoyed it so much is it felt very much like a lot of times with movies like this that are retellings of events can seem like that's not how people would talk. That's not what anyone would say. But especially these scenes where you're with the scouts and how they're talking about these players and what they're saying, it felt so realistic.
Right. I think majority of the people in that room for the scouts were actual scouts. Besides one or two were actual actors. So I think we kind of got a feel for what it would really be like in that room, which is kind of cool. Yeah. Because no one's allowed in that room besides the scouts and the GM. So, it was kind of a nice peek behind the curtain and that real talk of what happens behind those closed doors. And
the reactions you were getting are like the one guy who ended up getting himself fired because he was like, because you get so set in your ways, right? Because I think that's the other thing that is a big part about this movie is they're so set in what they're looking for, right? Like I thought that was also interesting how kind of superficial baseball is.
Yes.
Like this guy's a great pitcher, but he throws funny, so no one wants him.
Yes.
Like
it's
wild.
It's crazy to me. I mean, you think about, pitchers like that were always, even for me growing up, were talked down on because they just pitched funny, submarine pitchers, what have you. But in reality, there's just something new that no one's seen. So why not throw them out there? Because, batters are so used to a specific windup and a specific thing that coming at me on the side like that, it would throw me off.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And it's like, and again, it just kind of the appearances, like one of the things that the scouts kept saying in the room was like, he's got a good face or he's got a good look about him. Yeah. And it's like, so is he that good of a player or is he just good looking on the field? Like where, what I mean? Like,
you want to win or are we bringing in fans here to stare at him?
Right. Right. Which is so funny because when you really think about it, most baseball players are pretty, for the long time, they're all really good looking. They all have like smoking hot wives. Yeah, like, it's
right. You're
good
like,
for you,
okay, that's not the guy I grew up playing baseball with, but whatever.
What it is what it is. But and then also you got to think about it. Of course, when you talk baseball, you got to kind of bring up too the idea of, and it makes the idea of like the performance enhancing and drugs and things like that. The way that these scouts are talking makes you realize even more just why something like that could be so prevalent.
The pressure.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Like, I remember watching the race for Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire for like the home run record, and then to watch both of them be tarnished because of what came out at the end.
Right. I mean, but that's the thing is they were wanting to perform at a high level. They wanted to show they can still perform, so they did it. I mean, there's all that pressure from them to do it. I know people say that they shouldn't matter, but come on, it matters. It's their job. Like they want to perform.
Right. Oh, for sure. I mean, everyone's going to want to perform. And especially now, I think that's kind of what's really cool that this movie does is it helps give you that behind the curtain peek. Like, you're pulling it back and being like, oh, fuck. Like, these guys have a lot riding on very little, and like the scene where the pitcher who, throws funny came up to Brad Pitt and thanked him for like giving him an opportunity.
Right.
Because no one else has done that before. I was like, oh, like that's nice.
It was nice. That's how it should be. You're playing. I know I'm probably going to piss people off saying this, but they're playing a game. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah.
You're paying millions of dollars, $100,000 to play a game. I would love to play that game if I could still play it.
Yeah. So. Oh my God. Of course. Who wouldn't want to? Like, it's just, I mean, who doesn't? Everyone, so many people grow up playing sports saying like, I'm going to be a professional athlete. And then the majority of us realize, nope, I am not.
Nope. I mean, I would, but I'm not going to be.
Nope. Don't have time for that. No, thank you. Cause it's just, I don't have the dedication.
Right.
But like the fact that like I feel like I could equate baseball now to like an episode of America's Next Top Model with how much they were looking for. And it's just like, if that's how it's going, and then you have this kid from Ohio that comes up with some idea and talking about a different way of looking at it versus like runs on base and getting, because that's the whole point, right? Like it's not in professional baseball, it's not, those games of like 11-0 really shouldn't be that easy to come by, right? So the more opportunity, it's one of those things like, why didn't we think of that? Well, because that's not the important part in their mind. The important part is like, what is this one person good at, and do they look good doing it?
Which is super unfortunate. They miss out on a lot, obviously.
Yeah.
And Oakland showed that. What they did.
For sure. Where on your list of like top 10 baseball movies do you think this would fall?
Probably number 5. If I had to really think about that. I love this movie. My favorites though, they're never going to get bypassed, but no matter what comes out at this point.
So like, what are your top 5 like so any order?
The Sandlot's number 1. Like no matter what, I will watch that movie forever. The Sandlot, I really, really love The Rookie. I love that movie so much.
That's one with Dennis Quaid, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
It's such a great movie. I think it's underrated. A lot of people kind of just don't think about that. Field of Dreams would be number 3. And Rookie of the Year, because that movie's hilarious.
Rowan Gardner.
Like, constantly amazing. I love that movie.
Great Gary Busey in that movie.
Oh, my goodness. Amazing.
Like, mid-crazy Gary Busey, but not quite, like, full-blown off the deep end publicly yet, because there's not there's no TMZ at the time. But, like, he looks crazy. Yes. Yeah. Like, you okay, Busey? What's going on, dude? You're good. Oh, my God. Chet Stedman. The Rocket. Oh, that is...
I know everyone loves that Major League movie, and I love it too, but I don't know. It's not one of those nostalgic, hit me in the heart type movies.
No, for sure. I think definitely, like, I enjoy Major League. I only watched it for the first time all the way through, like, a few years ago, and I really enjoyed it. But again, I think I enjoyed it because of knowing how much, like, just nostalgia behind it more than anything. But I mean, if you're going to go, I mean, I absolutely adore, there was a time where I watched Field of Dreams like every single night before I went to bed, kind of thing. It was also pretty easy. Not because it was boring, an easy movie to fall asleep through, but it's not loud. I'm not getting like plane crashes and whatnot. So like, it was easier. So I watched that a whole bunch. Sandlot, obviously, I think is phenomenal. I love Rookie of the Year. How can you not? I would think my husband bought that on like Vudu because he saw it was there and it was super cheap, and he was like, "Fuck yeah!"
Yeah, so why not?
Right? So he owned that one. Yeah, I mean, how many? There's no other movies that have like a whole game every season based off of it. Like you have there was nothing like when I was watching the Field of Dreams game a couple years ago. Like, it was like the first one back after, like, with the shutdown and COVID and everything going on, and baseball was starting back up again. They did the Field of Dreams game, and you watched Kevin Costner walk out of the corn. I'm like watching this whole like thing happen. I'm like sitting on my couch, like sobbing.
I was bawling. It hit. Oh yeah, that moment I always wanted to see.
Yeah, you just want to see Kevin Costner come out of the field, and there he was. So that's always stuff like that is just, I think, is super super cool. Like, that's nostalgia that I'm always gonna love and adore.
Well, and what I loved about this, and I don't think a lot of people caught onto it, but when Billy Bean Wynn interviewed with the Boston Red Sox, that guy, the actor who played, I think he was the owner, was Smalls, the older adult Smalls in Sandlot.
No!
Yeah.
Shut the front door. I did not know that.
It took me a second. I'm like, he looks really, really familiar. And then I looked it up and I was like, yeah, that's Smalls, adult Smalls. And he plays in a lot of everything. He's such a great actor. And it was kind of nice that they brought him into that.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably was just a tiny little nod. Well, it was a nod because Brad Pitt made a great Mambino reference.
Yes.
And so it was kind of a nod to Sandlot, which was nice.
That's so cool. Yeah. Oh, man. I didn't even notice that.
I thought you'd like that.
That's so cool. Look at you with your little tidbits of knowledge. That's fun. Oh, that's so cool. Fuck. Now I gotta go back and watch it.
Go back and watch it again.
Just for that scene. My husband would be like, we just watched this. Like, do we have to, like, why do we have to?
One more time.
What did he say to me one time? He was like, why are you picking the most long, boring movies with zero action to watch? I'm like, it's a good movie. He's like, yes. He goes, but he's like, because we have like, I'm either watching them on my laptop or I'm watching them on our TV. Like, that's how we're doing it. So if he has to watch it on the TV with me, he's not a big fan of having to watch long, boring movies with no big, like, super duper plot that he's already seen. Because he's like, this is fun. But
I get it. I understand it. I totally understand it. Especially seeing Big Trouble in Little China behind you. Like, I totally understand.
It is a favorite. It's a staple in this household. I've told the story before, so I might end up just editing this part out. But when my husband and I first started dating, when we were doing like the exchanging Facebook friend request or whatever, I went to his Facebook page and his profile picture was Jack Burton after he kisses Kim Cattrall with like the red lipstick and everything. And I'd never seen Big Trouble in Little China, but I knew that Kurt Russell did like 2 movies in the 80s that were like these character-based things. So I was like, I knew it was either Escape from New York or Big Trouble in Little China. Those are I knew it was one of those two. I remember in Escape from New York, he had an eye patch on. So I sent a message, sent a little text. I was like, oh, Big Trouble in Little China fan, huh? And he was like, yes. Oh my God, have you seen that movie? It's my favorite movie of all time. I love John Carpenter. And I was like, oh yeah, it's so good. So campy. Da-da-da-da-da. Once we officially like started dating a couple weeks later, he was asking me about this movie. And I'm like, yeah, honey. He goes, you've never seen it? I went, no. I was like, sure, have it.
Wow. Well played. Well played.
And here we are, 10 and a half years together, 5 of them married,
awesome. And you've watched it since then?
Yes, multiple times since then. That is one of our favorite, we like to call them kind of background movies. Like, if there's nothing else to watch or like nothing we really want to put on, it's one of our go-tos to just like throw in the Blu-ray just throw it on and like chill out, or like if we're doing stuff around the house and want something on in the background, just kind of we love it so much. We're everyone knows, big Carpenter stans in this household. So
I get that. I totally 100% get that.
Yeah.
That's my dad's favorite movie. So I've watched it a billion times as a kid. Yeah.
I've given Moose so much shit every single time I talk to him about how that favorite movies ranking tier thing, the tournament that you all did, that the wrong movie won, and it should have been Big Trouble in Little China.
I disagreed with a lot of the options I went through. That was a fun one.
I disagreed with so many, but you know what?
Moose knew I was going to give him crap. I told him ahead of time, like, I'm not going to go easy on you, dude. Like, I'm coming after you, dude.
You have
coming
to.
after you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's definitely been, and that's why this whole project itself has been so much fun, because I'm doing movies like Moneyball and Zodiac, but I'm also doing movies like Better Off Dead and The Burbs. And so, like, it's fun. And, you know.
Yeah, I know.
As soon as I said Better Off Dead, like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's so, and there's no rhyme or reason to, like, why I'm doing any of these.
Right.
So, like, October is gonna try to be a spooky month, and by spooky month, I have, like, 2 episodes that are actually, like, spooky movies, and the other 2 are ones that I'm putting in that could
awesome.
fit. But, like, there's just no rhyme or reason. I'm just like, oh, you're free? You want to talk about this movie? All right, cool. Like, let's go.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's a great. What you're doing is great. I love this because just being able to talk about a specific movie, one thing, in a podcast, you can get so much more out of it, and go in depth. And picking the movies that you've picked, is amazing. Like Moneyball. I mean, you look at it. You have Chris Pratt and Jonah Hill who blow up huge.
Like that's Star-Lord. That was still back when Chris Pratt was doing when they were calling him his Fat Pratt days.
Yeah.
Like that was Parks and Recs Chris Pratt, right? Like you're not getting Star-Lord like 27 abs Chris Pratt yet. And it's like, it's so wild to see like how he went from like in this movie, in this more serious role to what he's doing now. Right?
Well,
like,
yeah, he was typecast. I mean, Everwood and Parks and Rec, like he was typecast to that lovable, goofy guy. And then you give him this, and he knocked it out of the park. Yeah. I mean, it was small, but he did it. Yeah. And
I mean, still my least favorite of the Chris's, you know. But what are you gonna do?
Right.
We can't all be winners.
We can't all be winners. And he is a giant. Yeah. He became a giant winner on everything else he did, you know, and it's crazy.
He may be my least favorite Chris, but you know what? He's got a shit ton more money than I do.
Yeah, right.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger as a father-in-law, which, I mean...
It's kind of awesome.
It's kind of awesome.
I mean, I think Haas will tell you, and I know he'll next time Moose talks about it, I'll openly say there's two guys in the movie worlds that I can't do no wrong in my opinion. Chris Pratt's one of them, and Ryan Reynolds is the other.
Well,
so
sure.
You know what I mean? So Haas likes to make fun of me about my crush for Chris Pratt. But hey, the dude dropped a lot of weight for this movie. Like he worked out crazy to get that role. So,
yeah. No, he did so good. Like when he's sitting there and they like toss him the ball and he's like, yeah, no, I can play. And then he's like, nah, my elbow's done. Like I can't throw it from, you know, whatever anymore. And like, just like the defeat in his face. Cause he has a family and he has a wife and like, it's so insane. And then you even think about how personal that whole scene felt.
Oh, right.
But then comes out. Yeah. But then like Brad Pitt doesn't give a shit. And that's why he even says like, I don't fly, I don't do this, because he takes the personal side out of it. So you have that whole scene where the one David Justice is talking to Jonah Hill on the plane. He's like, yeah, he doesn't travel with the family. He goes, so it's easier to cut us when he has to. And Jonah Hill's like, no, like it has nothing to say, but it's just like, that's a shitty job. And it's so funny. Like watching that scene, I had just finished watching the first 2 episodes of the documentary show that Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds are doing they bought that soccer team. Yeah. Welcome to Wrexham. And literally the second, I mean, whatever, spoilers, it's fine. But the second episode goes into how the team is playing and they're playing to get promoted. The game ends up in a draw, so they don't get promoted. And so Ryan Reynolds calls Rob McElhenney. He's like, hey, we're going to have to make some changes. And then at the end, the cards come by and they're like, the coach and his staff were all let go the next day. All of these players were let go of their contracts the next day. And it's just like, God, that sucks. And they had just come in and bought up this team. Like, it has to happen. And then the way that Brad Pitt was just like, all right, you go do it.
Yeah.
Jonah Hill's like,
gotta learn. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's a business, right? I mean, that's how he has to look at it. So, but yeah, to be able to go in there and to be around these guys all year, look up to some of them probably because they're great ball players and have to cut them. That could not be easy. Yeah,
because that wasn't what he was doing in Ohio, right? Like he was they were coming and asking him what they thought about this person. He told them what the numbers said, and then that was it. Meanwhile, he gets pulled into Oakland and is having to now be an assistant GM, is because that's the title that Brad Pitt decides to give him in front of Philip Seymour Hoffman. Like, this is your new assistant GM, deal with it. And then to be like, all right, you go tell him that he's, being traded. And the way, and I think that even that scene itself is so powerful because this guy, this is what he's used to, right? This player, he's like, I'm going to get traded. Like, he's gotten traded. He's done this. He's done that. And then Jonah Hill's in there, and he's, like, super nervous, and he just throws it out there, and he tries to be a boss. And, like, the player just then goes, right. Okay. And just gets and walks away, and you're just and then you're sitting there in it for a minute. And, like, that's why Jonah Hill is so brilliant in this movie, because there's so many little things that happen that you don't realize are happening until you're sitting and you're like in the air, and he's just kind of sitting there going, okay, like he's channeling his Brad Pitt with telling him this, but then like he realized he never even had to be that tough, because like homeboy who he's telling is gone is like, all right, cool.
Okay. Yeah, they get it.
Yeah, right. Like, they know.
Right.
They know how the cookie crumbles with that.
The pause breaks that Jonah Hill did and the beats on his deliveries of not only the comedy but just the dramatic stuff. Yeah, his beats were incredible. Like he knew what he was doing
and how to say it and where to say it, and it really puts into perspective. I in interviews, what he's said before is like, yeah, I'm the comedy guy and I get paid I make big money doing my super bads and all of those things, but like I'm always going to take the actor's minimum to like, he was like, I wasn't going to fight what they were going to pay me to go be in The Wolf of Wall Street or to be in Moneyball. So I have the opportunity to work for Martin Scorsese, work with Brad Pitt, work with Leonardo DiCaprio. Like he seems like the most chill, humble dude.
Yeah.
In Hollywood. And like even he's come in and out of like being in the picture, because he's even said like he doesn't like how people are treated in this industry or like how he gets treated, especially with his whole fluctuating of his weight with his weight loss and his weight gain and like things like that. He's like, cool, I'm good. He's like, I got my paychecks. Like if I feel like, he's now at the point where like if he feels like doing something, he can. Right. Which is fucking wild.
Yeah, like, it's insanely crazy. Especially when you look at what he was doing back, 11, 12 years ago. Then again, he did the 21 Jump Street and can do no wrong at that point.
Oh my God, 21. And I loved 22 Jump Street. I don't give a shit what people like. 22 was also both of those. That's probably one of those where like the sequel to me like fits. With the first one, for sure. I also liked how, because it also was very aware of what it was doing and making fun of itself. So like when in 22 Jump Street, when he walks into like the new office and they see Ice Cube in his little like big square glass room, and he just walks like it's a giant ice cube. I laughed way harder than I probably should have at that whole thing, because it's wild, especially because like I mean my first introduction to Jonah Hill was Superbad, right? Him and Michael Cera. So, and knowing that he's done other movies since then, one of those on the list is Wolf of Wall Street. So I'm excited to see him in that dramatic role too. Yeah, oh my gosh, I can't wait. The whole reason why I haven't watched is the whole Bernie Madoff of it all. Like I feel like I'm giving him money by watching him screw, like watching Leo who's playing him screwing everybody over. So it's just like, I just gotta do it and just suck it up. But it's so funny because like you get into that idea of the typecasting, right? So everyone thinks I see Jonah Hill and I'm just like, oh, Superbad, like the guy who makes dick and fart jokes. There's no way he can do this role the way that he's done it. And who knows? And then you read like, I get why the Academy gave him the nom, because it's not just with how he's saying things, but like when he's not saying things, you're just sitting there, you're just like, holy shit, because you can see he's so out of his depth and out of his league.
Right. And I think he really showed how great of an actor he was and how good his flow is, especially when he was describing to Billy the analogy of that baseball player falling over and getting back up, and not realizing that he hit a home run. I think that whole scene really showed Jonah Hill has a giant scope of things and tools, and he showed it right there. I mean, with Brad Pitt, and he owned that scene. Yeah. Owned it.
He really did. And then what he says, like, you can't romanticize baseball. Like, who says you can't romanticize baseball? Because it really is what it, because I love it. I also love when he pulls up the video of Kevin Youkilis, and he was just like, but they're going to be doing this. Like, they're sitting on him. And then look what the Red Sox did a couple years later.
Right.
Like,
It's that, I think what works, and I'm hit or miss how I feel about the whole sabermetrics thing that they use for Moneyball. Yeah. But I think it goes hand in hand with what scouts do. You have to look at the player as a whole. What can they bring? So I think this movie really showed that there's more to it than what was being reported on back in 2002, and this gave that look to it,
Right. And not being shady like the Houston Astros reading signs. What?
Right, exactly. Yeah, they didn't cheat. They just found a way to find the runs.
So shady. So shady. God, the Astros, trash. Like, I know. Garbage. There goes my one Astros fan. I'm sure it's fine. Someone will.
Hey, I'm tatted up. Like I have it. I own the Angels. Whatever,
Like you said, my husband has always been a diehard White Sox fan. So grew up Southside Chicago, going to the cell, all of that fun
Talk about
stuff.
History with baseball too. Those White Sox.
That's oh my God,
some
crazy history. I mean, again, you want to talk about cheating and shaving points?
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yep.
It was
years. That was a good movie too, by the way.
Yeah. The mob. What are you going to do when you're in with the mob? Shit happens. It's like, and of course, like, I love a good mob movie. It's such a problem. I have a type.
Hey, I get it. Godfather's one of those movies I can watch constantly over and over again. So
that's a long movie.
Yeah, it really is.
It's good though.
It's so good.
I got another story we could talk about off podcast, because I'm pretty sure I've also told that one on here. But with that being said, and talking about Moneyball, I'm gonna go ahead and get to the part where we rank it on Letterboxd. I'm either gonna get a cease and desist from Letterboxd for constantly using their name, or maybe I can get sponsored. We'll find out. But
see what happens.
We will see what happens. For this movie, I am going with. I'm going 4 out of 5 stars. I think that the Aaron Sorkin written script is brilliant and very quiet. It's a very quiet movie. I see myself kind of definitely going back and watching it again. But yeah, I think 4 out of 5. It's the Jonah Hill gets me the most with it, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. So there we go. That works. I like it.
I think that's perfect. I think that's exactly perfect.
It's a great score. Fight me. I'm just kidding. I almost had to fight Lomas and Moose for my burp score, but it's fine.
What? Oh no.
2.5 stars. Anyway,
so Moose lost his shit apparently.
He wasn't thrilled.
He didn't tell me any of that. Like he was just like, "Oh, such a great thing. We had a great time talking about Bears." He didn't tell me what you scored it.
2.5 stars. It's fine.
I get that. I totally get it. It's not my favorite. I make fun of him for it.
Oh, this is why Ryan's my new favorite in the Haas family.
The fact that The Burbs was on his top 64 list, I was like, dude, bro, come on, really?
Top 64. So many goddamn movies to like go through. Like,
yeah, I was very upset with him. And I don't even think he put Sandlot on there. And I was like, how are we cousins? Like, how are we
even family? Like, how is this even working?
Come on.
Well, Ryan, before we get out of here, why don't you tell all of the listeners who I haven't offended with my baseball thoughts, where they can find you and anything you got going on?
Yeah, so check me out on Twitter at Cousin Ryan 2021. You will all probably see me around on some other shows, heard my name, heard my voice, what have you. But come check me out there. You'll see what I'm doing next. Moose and I have some fun things planned for the near future, so look out for us. We're coming.
Awesome. And if you all are enjoying what you're hearing, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to Flick and Reel on whatever audio platform you're listening to us on. If you're listening on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment your thoughts on Moneyball, and check out any of the other episodes of You've Never Seen It that we have up and comment your thoughts there as well. Please don't forget to also hit that bell icon to get notifications for any time we have new content drop. You can follow the show on Twitter at NeverSeenItFNR, and you can follow me at Allison Salamone. And until next time, my friends, be safe and let's go watch some movies. See ya.